first, what I want to do is I want to cover some tryhard decks that are good post-patch in Perils of Paradise in Wild post-patch 30.0. So these are the decks where if you're looking to level, if you're looking to hit Legend, if you're looking to get the Diamond 5, you want something easy to play, or at least something that's doing well on ladder. These decks are not only the decks that were primarily dominating my personal climb this month, which did not end the first of the month as it usually does. I actually hit Legend on the 4th after taking the 2nd off. But I can show you what I think people were playing, what seems very good in the meta, and depending on your play style and preferences, where you could go with it. So first and foremost, I'm obviously going to showcase the deck that took me to Legend. This is just your standard Gnoll Rogue. Flex spots in the deck itself and how it's built are how many Obsidian Shards you're playing, how many Hip Hop's Harmonics you're playing. Some people have cut Hip Hop Harmonic entirely. Some people run 1. Some people run 2. I ran 2 for a little extra reach. I'm really interested in possibly trying minus the Hip Hop Harmonic plus Lotheb. I think that might be kind of cool. What I'm also kind of looking at is... I've seen some Chinese players run 2 Obsidian Shards. That seems bad to me unless you're constantly going face with it, and also you need pack early. The mulligan for this deck, in case you've never played it before or you're just looking for tips on how to play it, you want Twisted Pack, you want Secret Passage, you want Sir Finley's Sea Guide. Mostly you want Twisted Pack. Passage is a way to get you pack. Finley is great to have if your starting hand is absolute dog water, or you can rip a Twisted Pack, play Finley, and draw 5 cards plus whatever other cards you have in your hand. Basically swap out cards that didn't start in your deck with cards that did start in your deck. And the cards that did start in your deck all synergize heavily to get down early Arcane Giants and free Wildpaw Gnolls as early as turn 1 in the case of the Gnolls, and in Giants it's pretty typical to get them down turn 3 or turn 4. This is pretty good into aggro. It is reasonably okay into control. You have to just sort of hope and pray they don't have the yellow cards and the answers when you don't want them to have them, which is why I'm seriously considering minus the one Hip Hop Harmonic for Lotheb, or maybe even Lotheb in the Zephyr spot, because I've had that used against me as a Reno Druid, and I have found it very, very effective. So it has me curious. The danger with that is Swindle doesn't hit your free minions as often. So that'd be a reason against necessarily doing that, and why you might want to do Lotheb for Zephyrus. Zephyrus is already one of the lowest performing cards in the list, but at the same time, he just sort of scams you some games. He can get online as early as turn 3, so I don't know. Or turn 4. It's a consideration. It's called Copper Pirate Rogue Final Form, because this is where he left it before the last patch. I've tried new Ziliax in this list, and it feels fine. We are going nice and swarmy. We do like boards that get buffed. Could you cut Ziliax for a second mistake? Sure. Could you cut Ziliax for Sky Captain Crag? Sure. Could you cut Ziliax for another Paraglide? I guess, but 2 Paraglides kind of feel bad. This is the aggro deck that's only real enemy is aggro decks that can get under it or bounce it off board. I think this is an aggro deck that is actually, in my opinion, somewhat favored into control decks, because it creates lots and lots of swarmy little boards that on their own are not threatening or don't seem like they require a lot of removal. And then you drop down a Roughhouser, or you drop down a South Sea Captain, or you drop down Ziliax or Field of Strife, and things start spiraling. Adrenaline Fiend creates a lot of damage from hand from the little swarmy token decks, from the little swarmy token chargers that you get. Obviously, when Kurtrus gets online, like now you're talking about, a couple of chargers is basically functionally a Pyroblast every turn. This deck gives a lot of control decks fits. I can absolutely see why. this is a brand new, in my opinion, tier 1 deck from what I've seen. I had a lot of steam climbing with it this month, and then I ran out of steam. It's a 24 card deck. It's still not like, it's where even Shaman basically was in Castle of Nathria, where it's a really, really good deck, but it's not hyper refined and it doesn't have the support it needs to be absolutely, blowing the doors off of everybody. But this is a very, very, very good deck. And especially if you see sort of a mix of people climbing with aggro or some slower stuff, this eats most things alive, especially on a good draw. I got this Reno Priest from Corbett. You can tell it's post-patch because we are playing the brand new buffed Nightshade Tea. I've already been in some debate with some players as to how good this card is. I think, and this is my opinion, because it's 1 mana, kill a treasure distributor, and not only kill a treasure distributor, like you've got 3 charges in it. You're a Renathal deck. Your health is basically immaterial. You do have Reno to heal you back up later, as well as some other lifesteal aspects like Blackwater Behemoth or a taunt off Amathul. I think this card's just nasty now, right? I think this card is just nasty now. And well placed. Otherwise, the game plan is kind of looks what it is. Get both Razas on Rhine so that you can blast somebody down with Spawn of Shadows. You'll notice that this list is playing stuff like Mass Hysteria, Shadow Word Ruin is in here, or no? Are we not ruining? You'll see Ruin in and out of the list occasionally. Looks like Corb did not opt for Ruin. That's fine. But some people are. Basically, Light It Burns, right? Shadow Reaper Anduin. A lot of this is Gnoll Rogue tech. This deck does reasonably well into aggro decks, does reasonably well to slightly favored into Gnoll Rogue, has a lot of disruption like Far Watch Post or Razor Scale or Okani into combo decks. The Chinese believe that this is the best deck in the format. This archetype, not necessarily this list itself. And you can see why, where, Chinese players tend to like having a chance or an option into every game that they play. That's why you see so many tech cards in Chinese decks, because they're trying to break parity. They're trying to sort of flatten their spread in their win rates. They don't necessarily like super polarized decks. They want things that can kind of beat everything, and this deck can kind of do that. We do run some new cards in it. We run Puppet Theater, which is an evil, 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 evil card. This was very popular when I was climbing. I can see why. I think it's a good, solid option if you're looking to climb and you like something a little slower. I personally love this deck. I love playing Reno Druid for the same reason that the Chinese players like and enjoy playing Reno Priest. It has a fairly flat matchup spread, except it's a little bit more tuned to be better into slower stuff. The Astalor, Bran, Aviana, A&R combo is just super, super strong. If your Astalor gets disrupted, you can always go to ETC and do Bran double Alex for lethal. I did change this list a bit. I got this initially from Soda on his Chinese meta report, and I changed up some things. I liked the inclusion of King Tide and Mista Vista and Rising Waves. Rising Waves is a pretty decent anti-aggro spell, an AoE spell that Druid really doesn't have a ton of access to. King Tide is just sort of a Lotheb that sometimes gets you Sleep Under the Star or Scale of Onyxia value. Pretty decent. Basically, when I'm mulliganing for this, ramp and guff, or like ramp and an obvious payoff, like maybe you've got Marin for free draws, whatever. But yeah. I love this deck because, we've got some disruption. We've got, I swapped out Reastraza in Soda's list for Mutanus. In my opinion, even though it's like, but Schmoopy, that's the Highlander Druid card. Well, yeah, that's true. I can see why you would say that, but especially when you're trying to do the Aviana brand combos, board space and hand space become such issues. Reastraza just sort of exasperates those problems. You don't want to keep adding random crap cards to your hand, and you don't want the board space being any more clogged up than it already is. And by the way, I don't even know how good Reastraza really is when Reno Lone Ranger's still running around. The other change I think I made to this list was I have Ysera the Dreamer, which is like the OTZ, third card in the ETC kind of take. In case you weren't aware, they changed the Ysera the Dreamer cards back, so she can in fact sap herself. So you can sort of go infinite with Ysera the Dreamer and just keep bouncing her and bouncing her with her own cards if you've got nothing better to do. Sometimes you got a bunch of mana in ETC and shit ain't happening. Ysera the Dreamer time. He used to run Hearth for the same reason. The nice thing about Ysera the Dreamer is it doesn't delete the good cards that you are holding on to that you're waiting for to finish things off. I think this list is good. I think this list is solid. We have cards like New Heights that we can push past. We don't need Guff in order to do funny Aviana turns. Solid, again, slower deck. Good for a grind fest. People who say that like controller value is dead and wild have not played Reno Druid anytime recently. I'm using Soga's version as Aggro Priest as an example. It's pretty much standard. There's nothing really weird here except for -1 Cathedral, +1 Cult Neophyte. The Neophyte is, for better words, dog shit. It doesn't have to be in here, but this is very clearly like Gnoll Rogue, Miracle Rogue tech. You could cut this for, let's say you're seeing more pirates. I was trying 1 needle in this slot, Shadowcloth Needle, which is, doing AoE for 1 AoE and sort of spraying that way. I think equally bad, but fine. You could run 2 Cathedrals. Fine. Like, I think, the quibbling over the last aspects, the list has gotten so much cleaner with the printing of Brain Masseuse, which is, the body is huge. The effect very rarely, in my opinion, comes into play, except possibly the mirror. But, like, this being able to trade into totems or other pirates cleanly is just kind of nasty. Or just having a big butt and being able to go face forever with a Void Touch Attendant out. This is also was a very popular deck that people were climbing with. I would expect it to continue to be popular. And it's funny because I was going to target this and Gnoll Rogue with like a Skipper Warrior, and the thing that prevented me from doing it was the Pirate Demon Hunter. So like could be very, very good, solid aggro option. You could absolutely ride that to Legend, D5, wherever you want to climb to. Last but not least, I'm going to use Soda's version of Pirate Rogue because I tried it and I kind of liked it. Kind of like the Katy Perry song, but like less kissing. Weird things he's doing in this list. -1 Gear Shift, +2 Shadow Steps. But what cards have we cut from this list? We've cut 2 Hip Hop Harmonics and a Gear Shift. And we have fit into Hose and Roughhousers. And what's the new thing? Is there any new thing? I guess just the Shadow Steps. I guess we used to play Ziliax and you stopped playing Ziliax. That's fine. I think those last spots largely don't matter. Cutting the Gear Shift kind of makes sense if you are going to include Shadow Step, because you're basically looking to, instead of just throwing the boat out there like a river croc and hoping it sticks and hoping you get draw from it, sometimes being a little bit more tactical and shadow stepping the boat. The Roughhousers I've been really, really impressed with in Pirate Demon Hunter, because any board that sticks just sort of spirals if you can't get rid of it. So this has proved to be like, think of it as 3 mana, 4 health Crusader's Aura for any neutral pirate deck. Very good card, and I could see where you might change the list up in order to make room for it. All right. So, a lot of my viewers are very talented players who absolutely know the meta, and they know it very, very, very well. This is just an example of like 6 common decks just in case you were living under a rock and you don't know what the wild meta looks like and you want to look for something competitive to play, I would suggest any of these 6 decks. I would easily bring any of these 6 decks to to THL or to some sort of competitive player tournament. Definitely, I would consider bringing any of these as good options for ladder. For me, the one that worked best, no roll rogue, but again, it's kind of all up to preference. Might be the best deck in the game, might also be one of the easiest to hate on, which is sort of a weird paradigm for it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and good luck on ladder and in wild in general.